Welcome to Skytech-Lens. Countries that once saw America as the golden market are quietly turning their backs. New trade policies, tariff walls, and diplomatic instability are driving this shift. The new hotspot, Canada, quietly climbing the ranks with real competitive advantages. Today we're diving into 11 countries that have swapped America for Canada in their food export plans. This isn't just a change in shipping labels, it's a seismic shift in global food trade. We'll unpack each country's unique journey and the triggers that led them to look north. So get ready as we explore the 11 nations reshaping the map of North American food imports. For decades, Chile's world-renowned grapes, avocados, and salmon flowed straight to the U.S. But in late 2024, sudden U.S. trade policy changes created a maze of compliance and unpredictable port delays. Shipments of premium cherries, once perfectly timed for holidays, were now at risk of spoiling on U.S. docks. Financial losses mounted and trust eroded. Chilean exporters realized relying on a volatile partner was no longer tenable. Enter Canada, offering stability, streamlined customs, and investment in port infrastructure. The CPTPP provided a reliable framework, and Canada's proactive approach was a lifeline. By early 2025, new export corridors were established, rerouting ships from Los Angeles and Miami to Vancouver and Halifax. Fleets were redirected, and new partnerships with Canadian distributors formed. Canadian grocery shelves soon overflowed with fresher, more affordable Chilean produce. This wasn't just about diverting goods, it was a strategic realignment. Chile secured a stable, growing market, while Canada bolstered its food security. The lesson in a world of uncertainty, predictability, and partnership are the most valuable commodities. Chile's pivot marked the first major domino to fall. It signaled a broader trend soon to ripple across the globe. The era of Canada as a preferred North American partner had begun. Jamaica's exports, Blue Mountain coffee, Scotch bonnet peppers, mangoes, once relied on the U.S. market. But slow-moving FDA reviews turned proximity into a liability. Perishable goods spoiled on U.S. docks, threatening the livelihoods of Jamaican farmers. Frustration in Kingston grew as red tape strangled profits. Jamaican export consortiums led a grassroots pivot north. Canada's food inspection agencies were rigorous but efficient, with transparent, predictable timelines. This reliability de-risked Jamaican operations and enabled sustainable growth. New shipping routes to Halifax and Montreal bypassed the U.S. entirely. Logistics companies adapted, offering integrated farm-to-Canada services. By mid-2025, Canadian supermarkets saw a surge in authentic Jamaican products. It was more than jerk sauce. Fresh produce, rums, and coffees filled the aisles. For Jamaica, it meant survival and prosperity. For Canada, a richer, more diverse culinary landscape. Jamaica's pivot proved the path of least resistance no longer led to the U.S. Canada had become the new gateway. Germany's high-value food and beverage exports, beers, wines, chocolates, once flowed to the U.S., but protectionist U.S. customs and non-tariff barriers created costly delays and uncertainty. German exporters, known for reliability, found this unacceptable. Berlin and trade federations methodically shifted focus to Canada. The CETA agreement offered a stable, open, and predictable trade environment. German supply chains were optimized for Canadian ports like Montreal and Halifax. It wasn't just rerouting ships, it was a full-scale strategic pivot. German products saw a renaissance in Canada. Supermarket aisles and specialty stores expanded their German sections. Canadian consumers enjoyed more variety and quality. Germany diversified its export portfolio and forged a stronger bond with a welcoming G7 partner. The pivot was a strategic victory for both nations. Reliability and partnership won out over bureaucracy. South Korea's food exports, kimchi gochujang snacks, once targeted the U.S., but new U.S. food safety and labeling laws created costly compliance headaches. Small and medium Korean enterprises were hit hardest. The American market became a bureaucratic minefield. Korea's government and food giants rerouted exports to Canada, a CPTPP partner with a stable regulatory framework. Canadian retailers were eager for global flavors, creating a perfect opportunity. Major supermarket chains signed exclusive deals, launching dedicated K-food sections. Direct supply chains bypassed traditional distribution, locking in market share. For Korea, it secured a North American foothold without U.S. volatility. For Canada, it enriched the food landscape and met the demand for authentic global flavors. Korean aisles became commonplace, a testament to a swift strategic pivot. The shift was both cultural and economic. Brazil's exports, beef, soybeans, sugar, were hit hard by the new U.S. border carbon adjustment tax. The tariff priced many Brazilian goods out of the U.S. market overnight. Billions in revenue were at risk, and trust was broken. Brazil pivoted north, where Canada recognized its sustainability certifications. New green corridors fast-tracked Brazilian goods into Canada. Shipping routes shifted from Santos to Canadian ports. Bilateral agreements focused on food security and supply chain resilience. Canada gained a stable supply of beef and ethanol feedstocks. Brazil replaced lost U.S. revenue and solidified Canada as a key partner. The Canadian market stabilized and consumers benefited. Climate policy had redrawn the map of global commerce. U.S. tariffs on French luxury foods, cheese, wine, charcuterie, devastated small French producers. Prices doubled, demand plummeted, and surpluses mounted. France swiftly redirected exports to Canada, leveraging the CETA free trade agreement. Tariffs vanished, and Canada became an attractive alternative. French marketing campaigns and festivals built excitement in Canadian cities. Supermarkets and retailers showcased French gastronomy. Within a year, French food and wine exports to Canada surged over 30%. Canadians enjoyed unprecedented access to premium French products. The pivot deepened cultural ties and stabilized French producers. France turned a trade crisis into a strategic triumph. When one door closed, another opened wider. Egypt's food security depends on wheat, with the U.S. once a key supplier. Climate disruptions and price spikes in the U.S. made American wheat too volatile. Egypt sought a more reliable partner and turned to Canada's vast prairies. High-level talks led to a landmark wheat security framework. Canada guaranteed Egypt a steady, predictable wheat supply at stable prices. Egypt made Canada its primary supplier, investing in upgraded port facilities. The alliance stabilized Egypt's food supply and budget. Canadian farmers gained a massive, stable market. The partnership was about more than economics. It was about stability and feeding a nation. Egypt's pivot showed food trade is now geopolitics. Mexico's agricultural exports, avocados, tomatoes, tequila, once flowed north to the U.S. But border friction, inspections, and delays created costly uncertainty. Mexican producers felt more like adversaries than partners. Mexico began diverting premium exports to Canada, where border efficiency reigned. Pre-clearance programs and fast lanes streamlined trade. Bilateral enhancements, dubbed NAFTA-Plus, harmonized regulations and sped up inspections. Canadian stores saw a boom in fresh Mexican produce and premium spirits. Mexico hedged against U.S. protectionism and strengthened its North American ties. The message, if one partner creates obstacles, deepen ties with the one who clears the path. The North American supply chain was being redrawn. India's exports, spices, lentils, rice, mangoes, once relied on the U.S. market. But U.S. port bottlenecks and opaque customs delayed shipments, eroding profits. Canada stepped in with a culturally sensitive, proactive approach. Fast-track lanes at Canadian ports and digital pre-clearance revolutionized trade. Trusted Indian exporters enjoyed swift, predictable passage. Indian supply chains integrated rapidly into the Canadian economy. Authentic Indian products filled Canadian shelves even in small towns. India secured a reliable, high-growth market. Canada cemented its status as a global trading hub. After Brexit, the UK's US trade deal hopes faded over food standards. British exporters needed new markets to offset lost EU access. Canada, a fellow Commonwealth nation, was the perfect fit. The UK rolled over EU-Canada trade terms, gaining immediate tariff-free access. No painful negotiations, just compatible frameworks. The UK launched a major export drive, promoting iconic products like Stilton. The UK launched a major export drive, promoting iconic products like Scotch. Made in Britain resonated with Canadian consumers. Exports surged, and British sections appeared in Canadian stores. For the UK, it was a strategic realignment with old allies. The future lay in strengthening bonds with partners who shared its vision. Japan's food exports, wagyu, tuna, sake, once faced US bureaucracy and rigid regulations. Frustrated, Japanese trade organizations sought a partner who valued quality and collaboration. Canada's regulators worked with Japanese producers to preserve product integrity. The CPTPP provided the perfect framework. Japanese exports to Canada exploded with retailers expanding their Japanese offerings. Canadians enjoyed regional sake, artisanal miso, and fresh seafood. Authentic Japanese cuisine boomed across Canada. The shift was about more than trade, it was about shared values. Japan found a partner that respected its craft. Canada welcomed a new era of culinary excellence. 11 stories, one powerful trend: countries are pivoting from the US to Canada for stability and partnership. Canada's proactive diplomacy and trade agreements have made it North America's safe harbor. This is just the beginning of a global realignment. The ripple effects will shape international relations and your grocery store shelves. Reputation for reliability is now a nation's greatest asset. The world is taking notice. These 11 are just the first wave. Stay tuned as we keep unpacking the real stories behind the headlines. Thanks for watching a video, and subscribe the channel now for more updates. Thanks.